All right, welcome back to the Future Creator Podcast, where we talk everything creator economy. I feel like every time we film, it's always like raining or glooming. But how you guys feeling?
We're good. We got the staff party tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Phew. First ever staff party. Hired out an insane boat, which is going to be shocking in the weather that's been provided today. Led by Adam, but it will be very fun. I am looking forward to it. It's going to be nice to see everyone. Have you met everyone sales functions?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
But I haven't met any of them. It's going to be good.
I mean, predominantly you guys are across marketing and product or fulfillment. So I feel like meeting all the sales team will be cool. I haven't even met everyone. The thing of having a remote company.
Today, the topic we're going to be discussing is, can anyone become a successful creator? So I'd love to hear your thoughts, and we can get started.
Define successful.
I knew we were going to start there. I was like, I think that's the first thing that we have to define. I have an interesting definition for success, but yeah, I'd be curious for what your thoughts are. For me, success, I've never liked the word success. I don't know how you guys feel. I've just never liked the word success, and I feel like defining it isn't as useful. In terms of utility, I don't think defining it is very useful for me. But at least what I would say at a broad spectrum would be, are you able to do the thing that you like and continue doing it for a long period of time? For me, at least that is successful. Like, that would be like essentially earning enough money that you're able to do the thing that you like. I think at some degree, that is basically success. There's obviously areas of, do you wake up every day fulfilled or happy? I don't think so. Like, every business, like, you have to do things that you don't like. So I feel like when we start getting super granular with it, I feel like there's all these like nitpicky of like what true success is. But I feel like if you wake up and you get to do the thing that you want for extended period of time, I would be like, you're on the path of being successful.
But then really the question is, can anyone be a successful entrepreneur leveraging social media?
Yeah. Let me lay the foundations of how I think about like the creator, and then we can dive into like success and see if it ties in. For me, at least the way I think about the creators. So can anyone become a successful creator? I think there's two types of creators. There is a creator who sells other people's products and services, which is like the traditional influencer, which I think is slowly dying out. And then there's the creator who sells their own products and services, which is, business owners, even like real estate agents, like people who, have businesses and want to jump on the platform, or they create content knowing that they want to sell their own products and services. For me, I think that creator can 100% be successful no matter an area. I think they can earn enough money that they can do the thing that they want for extended period of time. I think the other side, the traditional influencer, I think is a lot harder. And the reason why is they have to rely on outside sources, which I think is the difficult part. And it's like you're always relying on a brand. Like, can they pay me? Can I get a brand deal? It's everything outside. Whereas in the creator who sells their own products and services, I think it's just an education gap, a learning gap, where if they learnt offers, sales, marketing, content, they could upskill in a level where they should be able to essentially become successful and be able to earn enough money where they can do what they truly want to do.
I'd probably challenge you on that.
Okay.
I would say that both what you've just said in terms of upskilling in content, in sales, in marketing is going to benefit both sides. And even the influencer that represents other brands, it's still a numbers game. How many brands do you reach out to? How many people do you essentially want to try and attempt to get to represent? And I still think it's a numbers. I still think it's effort. Obviously, there's people that are naturally skilled in both, and it's going to be easier, but I think both can be very successful.
Do you think anyone, like both areas are equal in opportunity to success, or do you feel like the barrier to entry for the influence now is a lot harder? Because that's my perspective. I think anyone could. I think it's a lot harder than someone who has their own products and services. They could start, they could get to a level of earning money a lot quicker, or more sustainably than the other person.
I think the influencer benefits from being a specialist and getting really good at just marketing, because they don't have to manage sales or product a lot of the time. I'd say like marketing and sales, but they don't have to manage any fulfillment. Whereas the other one is a business owner, so they have to wear multiple hats. So the all-rounder is going to benefit from being more all-rounded rather than just a specialist in marketing.
Yeah, I view this business similar to fitness, right? I think anybody can be successful. That doesn't mean everyone will be successful. Like, the skill set to becoming a good creator isn't that complex. Like, there's obviously strategy, there's obviously frameworks, but it's just going out there and executing them and being consistent and getting past limiting beliefs and fears, which I think a lot of people get stuck on. Similar to like going to the gym, right? everyone knows what they need to do, but very few people do it. And I think that's what sets successful creators apart from those who aren't successful, is actually just doing the work and being consistent.
Yeah, I'm also delusionally optimistic that anyone can do anything that they want. Literally, if they have desire and they're willing to apply themselves for a prolonged period of time, anyone can achieve anything that they want, particularly online. And if the benchmark for success is really set quite low, it's just being able to put food on the table. We're not talking about making millions or billions of dollars. It's, can they provide a level of livelihood for themselves? Like, I believe you could become a fitness coach and a really successful one online, which sounds fun, like may sound funny now, but like the reality is you just have to apply yourself for a prolonged period of time. And if the desire was there, you would 100% get there. You'd have an upper hand, granted, because you understand content creation, but anyone as a base could get there. And I think of people, you know, in our lives in the office, and it's like, yes, if they applied themselves for a prolonged period of time, got really good at one thing, you know, whatever high value skill that is, and then decided to teach that to other people, 100%.
Yeah, and I think to your question about the influencer economy, it's just changed a lot because of the supply of creators. There's so many creators stepping into the space that brands have more choices, right? They have more options to pick from, and the platforms work in a way which now puts brands in a little bit more control because they have more insight into the data and they can make better decisions. So there's just less money to go around, I think, unless you have a really big audience. So yeah. Well, let me finish and then you can step in. It's like, because of this oversupply of creators and because of the, I guess, data-backed decisions that these companies are making, like, before they would just write a blank check. Now it's very much ROI driven, where it's like you've almost got to prove yourself as a creator that your account can deliver the performance the brand's looking for. Otherwise, you don't get compensated for it. I think that has changed the fundamentals of the way the creator economy works. And as a creator, is like, you've got to have a massive audience or a growing audience to be able to sustain like a decent income if you're relying on brand deals.
I'd say it's happened the opposite way around. It started with big creators because they were the only ones that they could see tangible value behind because they had big brands. It actually started with celebrities prior to influencers being a thing, and influencers basically took celebrities out of the picture by being like, hey, we can generate big audiences, but we don't come at the price of a Hollywood star. And then it went to the big creators, and now it's gone to the micro creators because brands have actually realized they have more influence at a micro level, and they'd rather spread and do a shotgun spray across lots and lots of creators. And I'd actually say because of the ROI analytics that are now provided around the analytics and data of whether someone is performing with things like whitelisting, which is like a paid media exercise where you pay for someone's media space and you can see very directly what their return on the ad spend is. Because of that, smaller creators can compete in like a UCG perspective, where yes, they may be getting paid less, but there's far more opportunities because nearly every brand now is investing in affiliates, influencers, may that be an organic or paid. So I'd actually say, although there's more supply, there is so much more demand. And I think demand is outpacing supply.
I agree and disagree. Like, I think the coupon clipping creator strategy like only gets you so far. If you're promoting 10, 15, 20 brands, which a lot of creators do, is like, how much are you really clipping on those deals? It's usually an affiliate model where you drive a certain amount of traffic and you're getting a certain percentage. And again, I think that's why we see accounts with 50, 75, 100,000 that aren't making anything because they're relying on 20 different revenue sources that give them 5% on a sale. And
well, they are making something. But
again,
are they making as much as if they ran their own company? No. But I also think there's a correlation between the lazy influencer and the one that opts for brand deals. So if they became a lazy entrepreneur, I don't think they'd be much better off.
I agree with that. And I think that goes back to your question is like, can everyone be a successful creator? I think it depends on your definition of success and what you want your business to look like. I think more often than not, most people could build an audience and rely on brand deals, whether they get paid for it or not. Less people could then take that skill set and apply it to a business because you've got to worry about sales and fulfillment, which is a completely different beast. And we all know how hard each of us work to like run our shops. And I'm not sure everyone is cut out for that level of discipline and sacrifice that it takes to run a business.
Before we jump into other areas, can I get your opinions on what you think success is? Like, how do you guys define success?
I see success more on a level of fulfillment now. But I think that's because I've been fortunate to get to a point where livelihood is out the picture. I think success is relative to where you are. If you're in a job that you hate, success would be doing something that you enjoy. And then once you do something you enjoy, but if you can't put food on the table, success would be being able to put food on the table. And it starts going, it's ever moving goalposts of success. For me now, success is based on how fulfilled am I? How excited am I when I wake up in the morning? And how quickly do I fall asleep in the evening? And for me, that's a big part of my success. Success for me is defined by being able to train at 10 a.m. barefoot, topless in my backyard. So it's a very subjective definition of success and very particular to my circumstance. And I think success for everyone is subjective. But as a benchmark of what we're using today, I would say if you can be paid for who you are and enjoy what you do on a day-to-day basis, accumulated over weeks and months, when you zoom out, do you actually enjoy what you do? Does it fulfill you? Then that's a very successful life.
Yeah, I think everyone's definition is different. For me, it's freedom. It's being able to wake up and do what I want, when I want, with who I want. And I came from a world of having success on paper, right? Big job, big title, big salary. And for me, that wasn't what I was really chasing. But some people, that's really what they want. They want the big paycheck. They want the house in the Hamptons. They want the external validation. For them, that's what they're craving. And that's okay. I think everyone needs to figure out what is success to you and go chase that. Because we all have our own path. We all have our own life to live. And if you can wake up and design it in a way that you actually want, I think that's where you're going to be happy. That's where you're going to be fulfilled.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is if I was looking ahead and being like, okay, I'm a highly driven, ambitious person. Let's just say hypothetically you are, and you're looking at the creator economy. I'd be like, you have unlimited upside by investing time into the creator economy, like investing time at upskilling at the skills that would make you a great creator. Because once you have an audience, you are so highly leveraged. Once you have an audience, you have such a huge competitive advantage versus everyone else in the same playing field. If Ned and I decided we want to launch a supplement brand today, we would have significantly more advantage to not only distribute those supplements, but to test market research, to get feedback from customers before we've even incubated the product. Like such early doors advantage compared to anyone who's jumping on and like, I want to start a supplement brand. So I think for anyone who's ambitious and got some sense of entrepreneurial trait that maybe in the future they would like to do something, I would say start creating content straight away. And if you can pour your time into that, it's going to be a very, very high ROI.
Do you see the two paths? Like if you were to recommend that person, would you get them to identify, are they the entrepreneur or are they, I don't know what you would call like the lazy entrepreneur? Should they be going down the path of trying to do influencing or promoting and selling other products, or promoting and selling your own products? Because like what you said, there is a huge market right now of affiliates and people promoting other people's products. Like there's so much. I think there is a level that they can earn in terms of income and be able to do what they do, but I don't know which side. Yeah, I don't know which side has more chances at, maintaining that for a long period of time. I think that's like how I'm seeing it.
It takes a very particular type of person to build an audience and be happy just being an influencer, personally. I think it's someone that derives a lot of, try not to speak too negatively on it. I think ultimately, if you're an influencer, for me, you fall in the talent bucket. It's a bit like if you want to become a really, really good actor, which is beautiful. And for those people that want to be a great actor and they fall in love with the craft and they're incredibly creative and that's all they ever want to do. And that's great. But then you see the actors that as they begin to build up, they go, hey, I want to be a director. And you can tell that there's a different level of ambition there. And I think that's the same influencer to entrepreneur. An influencer just stands by product. And some influencers are happy to do that and just collect a check. Why would they want to manage fulfillment, manufacturing, back end, returns, sales team, dispute? That literally all they have to do is hold up a product and smile. And like that's not to discount the influencer either, because like I've done plenty of influencing roles and you still have to show up, you still have to be creative and do all those things. But like a great actor, it is a skill. But it takes a particular type of person that's just happy to be in front of camera. But there is a part of people that do that and realize, hey, you know what, it'd be pretty cool being behind the camera as well and sort of telling other people what to do. Obviously, a far greater leverage, a far greater position of leverage once you're behind the camera and telling other people what to do. I think it's just the type of person, to be honest.
Yeah, for me, it seems like the more responsibility that you want to take is the more that you can get in terms of, more income, a bigger business. But if you want to have less responsibility and you want to just be the face or the actor, yeah, it seems like there's, I guess, less upside, but you also deal with less stress and responsibility and stuff.
Yeah, it's so interesting because from the outside, if you're not ingrained in this world, everyone just assumes you're an influencer if you're creating content. And there's like a clear split of people who are true influencers and people who are business owners. And from the outside, they don't know who's who. But once you kind of get immersed into this world, we can recognize who's who. And yeah, it's just a different path and it's a different way to structure your time. But I think it just takes a different kind of person, like whether you want to, again, be in front of the camera or behind the camera. I personally prefer being behind the camera myself. I view the content as more of a utility to run the business versus like, I love actually recording myself. And I think some people view it that way. Some people actually quite enjoy being in front of the camera. So it's personal preference.
I'd say it's becoming rarer of just people that stay in front of the camera. I do think it's a rare breed of person that's happy just to stay in their swim lane and constantly be in that one place all the time. I think the reason being is influencers are seeing the weight that they carry in brands and getting in a way a little bit greedy and saying, hey, I want some more of that. I don't want just a clip off the top. It's very rare that these big influencers now would ever sign just an affiliate clip. They want LTV, lifetime value on that clip, or they want equity in the company if they're really going to push it and be the face of it. Because previously influencers were leveraged as a sales engine. And then, the company goes and exits, the founder takes a great take home and he doesn't really care because like the influencer ultimately has done their job, but they're just a sales vehicle. But now we're getting these highly influential people that are embedded in companies and they'll take an equity share in that as well. So I think the value is being more proportionate to an influencer where they can still play that influencer role, have nothing to do with the operations or fulfillment or sales channels, but still be that face and be paid pretty proportionally for it.
Do you think the micro influencers are like, is there opportunity for micro influencers to earn a decent amount again, where, you can survive? The way I look at it is I think the world has just transitioned and is going to continue to transition to people just working some level of a corporate job earning, let's just say anywhere from like 70,000, 150,000, like a average sort of wage, right? Obviously that's a little higher in terms of the average, but let's just say like a normal salary. I think everyone is transitioning to, can I make that money, that same amount of money online? I think a lot of influencers can probably, make 80K just selling other people's products. And I think if they just transition to there, I think a lot of people are genuinely just happy with that. They don't want to deal with the extra hassle of building a full business. But I think the transition from, can I earn the same amount from any sort of job that they would work, like some accounting job or, whatever they don't like. I think that is the move. And I think that's where everyone's trying to go like into that world with like the least amount of responsibility and the people who tick and go, oh, I actually like this. I actually want to build something here. And I think that's like, for us, we see a much bigger opportunity, and what we want to actually drive for as well is building some sort of product or service.
Yeah, I think from what I hear, at least with my audience, is people just want freedom. They want to be in control of their time. They want to be in control of their life. And if they could make $10,000 a month posting content, for them, that's incredible, right? I think where people get stuck is they've got this dream outcome and they see content as the vehicle to get there, but they don't know how to get there. And there is a skill gap, right? To understanding, yes, there's a content creation skill to growing an audience, but then if you want to monetize that, it's a completely different skill set. I don't know if people always recognize what it takes when you step into the space and the fact that there are skills you have to learn, but I think it comes back from that deep-rooted like desire to just not work for someone else and to just be in control of your time. And I think the world is waking up to having to sit in a box like in corporate America. Like I've been there, and I think the sentiment is like, hey, you don't have to do that. There are other paths out there, and content is a great vehicle to do that.
I agree, but I think the difficulty is creating long-term wealth is very different to be able to creating long-term wealth is very different to be able to earn, let's say, $80,000 1 year. And the inconsistency with the brand deal model that the typical influencer has is you don't have longevity, and you're only really as good as the content is hot and relevant. And a bit like an actor, if I keep comparing back to that, an actor's great while he's getting those key roles and he's getting paid, he or she is getting paid well, everything's going well until suddenly they stop landing roles. And now they're a little bit washed up. Now people don't want to work with them. And what do they have to show? Nothing. And that's why actors have gone on to this taking a percentage rights in movies, so that at least there's some ongoing cash flow into perpetuity. And I think the biggest issue here is brand deals give you this cash flow that's upfront and normally quite good. But when that runs out, what happens? And when that brand dies and you're no longer relevant, and then you're craving for relevancy, and you're sort of in this little bit of a hamster wheel. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs who are earning 80 to 150K a year, they're in this constant hamster wheel of like, hey, I left the 9 to 5 to work 24/7. And what a horrible feeling to have left for freedom, now working 80 or 100 hours, maybe for yourself. But ultimately, like, that's not why you left, right? I think people convince themselves that they left for the right reason. So if you don't build something that at least gives you some long tail and thinking a little bit into the future of, okay, how am I collecting data? How am I getting like an email list and customers? And that's the benefit of running your own business. You only need, 1,000 good customers that repeatedly buy from you, and you've got an amazingly strong business. If you just give all that data to the companies, if you're a Gymshark athlete, and you just give all your data to Gymshark, and then down the line, you're like, oh, maybe I should have tried to build my own clothing brand, and I could have had all that data myself. So you've literally just given thousands and thousands of data points, which they're going to milk, year on year into perpetuity. That's going to add to the total value of their company. And also, not to mention the halo effect of, because you're pushing Gymshark, there's plenty of people that don't use your link and you don't even get a kickback for. And that's just adding to their data pool as well. So I think it's just being conscious of that, but it's long-term thinking, which I think a lot of influencers probably just think in the immediate term of what's going to put food on the table today.
The one thing I challenge you on is I still think a lot of people, it's like that whole idea of if you're good at something you don't like, imagine how good you can be at something you do, right? I think for a lot of people, yes, you might work more hours starting your own business or even just being a creator. But at least for me personally, like enjoying that process, versus 80-hour weeks in an office where you're working for someone else, for something else, building something that doesn't really benefit you in the long run, versus like laying the bricks, building a company or building just a brand around you. The longer hours, in my opinion, from other creators I've talked to, are worth it. So I think it, again, depends on what sort of mindset you step into this space with and what you're looking to get out of it. But from more often than not, I think if you're working for yourself, the additional hours and sweat that you're put into it, it's slightly more rewarding.
It is, but I think if you are just being a traditional influencer and putting in those hours and not building any like tailing lifetime value or clip or remuneration for your work,
I agree with that. Yeah.
It puts you in a difficult position. And the way corporate structures are set up is to benefit you in the long term, right? Like you have this rolling salary that then clips into a pension fund. And on top of that, because you invest time into their company and you build up your tenure, you typically have a linear progression in your salary. Whereas entrepreneurship, the linear progression is not guaranteed. In fact, no progression or any revenue is guaranteed. So there's an element of risk as well. So it's a risk tolerance thing, I think. And for me, both are risky. The influencer who's waiting for brand deal handouts is in just as much of a risky position as the person that's building their own company. I would actually say that it's de-risk, because instead of jumping out the plane and the parachute being the brand deal that comes, at least you're in control and you're sort of writing your own script in terms of, well, if I put in the work, if I message enough people, etc., there is somewhat of a linear turn in terms of hard work, hopefully.
That's why for me, I'm 100% in that camp. Is as much in your control as you can is where I'd want to be. At least that's just how I feel. Like I think if something is, outside of my control and I'm waiting on someone else's like response, or, I'm just waiting for someone to like feed me, I think that's like the worst position to be in. So I think having that level where you have your own product and service, or you're trying to build your own business, I think at least you have the ability to transform yourself by learning and educating yourself and upskilling in all these areas. So for me, that side is why I say anyone can be a successful creator, because it really genuinely is up to you transforming and educating yourself to a degree so that you can build a business. Whereas in that side, I think there is levels of like marketing and, certain areas that you can improve. But I still think when it's reliant on someone else, maybe it's just me, I don't like that feeling. I feel like it's a lot harder to like maintain. Yeah.
I agree. And it's going to be interesting to see the way the space evolves, because I do think this like direct to fan model will become more and more prevalent. Like when we think about direct to consumer, direct to fan, direct to follower, like I think that's where the industry will eventually go, where creators are getting more switched on, and there are more, I guess, business savvy creators step into the space that are thinking, no, I'm going to create content to build a business in the back of that. And I think you'll start to see more and more creators create their own products or deliver their own services, which will be interesting to see, like, okay, how do brands compete now? Do they have to throw more money at the table to secure these deals? Do they spread out their money, like you said, shotgun approach? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like the way that the pendulum swings, but I imagine more and more creators will start creating their own businesses.
Best in class example of influencer leveraging the right way is Ladder. And if you've seen Ladder, they've surpassed 50 million in revenue a year. They're a fitness coaching app. And what they do is they reach out to some key people like Brian Pruitt, a few other key people, and they put them on ESOP, employee stock ownership program, where they essentially take or give a section of shares over time to those people. So they've actually brought them on the inside of the business and they pay them on salary. I think that's the best leveraged position you could be in as a brand. If you identify good creators that you want to keep, you give them financial stability, putting them on salary, and then you also give them part of the upside in an event of an exit or buyout or IPO. I think that's a really smart move from them. They're about to be valued at $1 billion, which is pretty insane. And they build a really clever product and do all of the lifting on the product and sales side, and then leverage the influencers as a media powerhouse for the brand. They're about 8 or 9, and they also help with the coaching. If you can leverage influencers as a media powerhouse, you're going to win in market every single time, because you're going to have the freshest ad creative. You've also can leverage their audience, and they've built in-house a really strong social media team. And if you look at all of their coaches, like Brian's following, crushing it. So they've padded around him editors, script writers, ideation team, creative directors, and brought that all in-house to consolidate resource and really turned their key partners into these sort of like media powerhouse. And I think brands that are doing that are doing it the best. Whoop's another really good example, but they've gone more for the shotgun approach. I'd say traditional model was Gymshark, who pretty much coined influencer marketing, which was you start with creating a really desirable in-group to be a representative of the brand. You know, the Gymshark athlete has been revered for a long time. Young LA is now competing with that as well. But the whole point of that was, how do you get people to be attracted to the brand to make it super beneficial? So instead of just going, oh, we throw a paycheck at them, it's no, we put events on. We give them cool opportunities. And what do most influencers want? Instagrammable moments, right? So you put them in an environment where it's super Instagrammable, and you see that all the time. You see Fonz, and then he's with David Lade, he's with Seabalm, all of these big people, because they know that's a massive attraction point for the creators in the mid tier and the low tier. Fonz is now at the high tier, which is awesome to see that transition. But that's like a very traditional influencer model. I think the other side is Ladder, which is the future of giving shares to a selection of big creators. And we've seen that done with obviously KSI as well, and Logan Paul with Prime, where it's just a couple influencers. But I do like the approach as well, where you place your bets on multiple and put them on ESOP. What would you say to current influencers that have built brands and are currently working with brands? What would your advice be to them?
I mean, I think the first thing I would say is don't spend all your money, because that can dry up very quickly. So I think, try to invest it, or at least have some level of, savings or investments. I think that's the first thing. But other than that, it just comes back to be in control, like be able to create something of your own. Even if you're not scaling it to the moon, at least have some level of products or service or a way that you connect with your fans. And I think you made a great point, because I've come from like the music background. I've completely seen the shift and the success in the artist that focuses on their fans and like connects with them, gets the data, be able to like build that connection, versus the artist who is relying on the label to conjure up fake fans, or just fake I don't know, it's like fake connections, I would say. But the artists that really build fans, one of the greatest artists that I don't know if you guys have seen, but his name's like La Russell. He's absolutely insane in terms of fan connection. Like there's so much stuff that he's done in terms of infrastructure that he's built within his business that is like direct to fans. Like something that's so interesting that he's done is, and this is like him early on, he charged like it was I think probably 1,000 at the time, but it's probably gone up, but 1,000 for like a gold card membership. So if you're a fan and you want to go to like every show of his for lifetime, it's like you pay this like gold card membership and like creating that like connection. And then as he's like grown like further up, he's now charging like obviously like more, but having those like real interaction with his fans is he's building a crazy fan base. He's even built like his own backyard infrastructure instead of going to like these shows, you know, when you go to, I forgot what it's called. What's that company called?
Like Live Nation.
Yeah, Live Nation. Exactly. You go there and it's like they completely ruin the artist. They have so much leverage, so much control that when you go to the shows, it's like you barely make any money. You have to pay tour manager, Live Nation. Like you have to pay so much stuff that the artist like gets left with nothing. So he built his own like ticketing platform, and he essentially has built his own backyard, which like I'll show you guys. It's insane. He built his own backyard and he does shows out of there, like 300, 400, 500 people. And yeah, he's just creating community and like that real fan connection. But anyway, tying everything back, I think that person that ties into like, I need to build my own infrastructure, my own products, my own service, so I at least have some level of control, I think is always going to have more success long-term than the person that's just relying on something outside.
I think again, it's personal preference of the lifestyle you want and the success you're looking for. Because if you are a creator who's making $150,000 a year off brand deals and you're happy with that, and you understand kind of the long-term view of what the career looks like, that's okay. I'm not going to tell you to step away from that if that's what you really want. But if you don't want that and you do have ambitions to potentially build something and you do want to build long-term wealth, then it begs the question, okay, do you want to actually build something? And what is required to actually do that? So for the people that sit in camp one, I would say stay where you are if that's what you like. For the people that are thinking, is this really going to last? Then I would start thinking, okay, you have an incredible amount of leverage because you have an audience. How can we tap into that to create a product or a service? What would that look like? What does your audience potentially want? And then let's ultimately start building that.
I'd say for Camp A, you could also go back to those companies you're already working with and present yourself as what you are, not just a leverage for sales and an influencer. You're actually a media powerhouse for them. They're going to be paying someone to do social media who's probably doing half the job you could do. They're going to be paying someone in-house anyway. And if you could say, hey, look, this is what I bring to the table, but these are the things that I'm after, whether that's a salary, whether that's equity in the company, you have leverage to negotiate those and brands will entertain it. Obviously, the bigger the brand, less likely on equity side, but more likely for a salary and vice versa. Smaller the brand, more likely for equity, less likely for a salary. But you have leverage to actually negotiate those. And I've seen that done really well, and it works well when it's done right. And you provide a lot of value for them because instead of paying all of this ongoing retainer, they've got you in-house now. And then you can also leverage your own brand to bring other creators on in-house, and you can help build their media team.
100%. I think that makes total sense to me because it's like you can leverage all the skills that you have, but then partner with the right company that you actually want to build long-term. Because I don't know if you guys have seen, I've seen this so many times on like YouTube, but it's like the amount of times that people eventually like make a YouTube video and like, I'm not doing sponsorships anymore because like it just like sucks the life out of them, or like they're not really truly invested. And that's where I see that side of it, like the influencing side. It's like, I think so many are taking brand deals just to survive and just to keep things going, especially because the money is probably a bit alluring as well. Like, quick cash up front. But I've seen that so many times. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the amount of times on YouTube where they're just like, those sad videos, but yeah, that's why I think like go to the brands that you want to build long-term with and try to build relationships and partnerships, because you already have the skills. Like you have some level of you have the skills. So to be able to just partner with them, I think would be the better move than trying to just chase too many brand deals where you'll probably end up making a YouTube video.
Too many brand deals, or you try and overextend yourself. And like running a company is hard. Being an entrepreneur is difficult. So I just say stick to what you're really good at and be the face of a brand.
And I think the advantage of again building something, it doesn't mean you close the door off on brands, but it puts you in control to have conversations that you actually want to have. Man, like think about Alfie, right? Like built this company. If a brand reaches out he doesn't want to work with, you're not going to work with them, right? That puts you in an incredible position to actually make choices that are in your best interest and have leverage in those decisions. If you only go brand deal route, you don't have that leverage because the brand knows, hey, you need this.
What do you guys think is the most important traits of a creator for the side of building a business? Like, what do they actually need? So let's say they were an influencer or they're like even starting out, like to build a business, what are the most important traits that they need to, or skills that they need to level up in to be successful long term?
It's a great question.
I don't think it's creator specific. It's just entrepreneurial traits.
But there's some level of creativity in the sense, the way I'm seeing it is you can't just jump in and just create content anymore. You need to understand like positioning, filming, like those elements like really like get you like further ahead. If you know how to like film and like create some stuff, like it does definitely get you ahead. So I think there's some level of creativity as well, but definitely a lot of it is based around like entrepreneurship, like skills around that.
There's almost two sets of skills for me. There is the creative element in terms of like showing up in the best way possible on the platform. And for everyone that's different. But yeah, if there is a little bit of an art and a science to it, if you can learn that, that will, I think, exponentially improve your chances of at least building an audience. But then there's the entrepreneurial side, which is a completely different skill set, which is more grit, being willing to fail, learning from your mistakes, continuing to try new things, and moving forward. That's a completely different skill set. And I think for me, in my experience, like a lot of my success has been pure grit of just like grinding. And that's probably one of the biggest, I think, levers that I've had to pull across any sort of venture that I've pursued is just fighting, like just pushing myself through. And that's what's, I think, gotten me to the end point. I would say you probably have a lot of that in your own experiences, just pure grit and continuing to move.
I think it gets you to 1. 0 to 1 is pure grit. 1 to 10 is realizing that you need to bring other people in, and that being the face of a brand and running the brand is very, very hard. To be the CMO, the CPO, and the COO. So that's chief of marketing, the chief of product and fulfillment, and the chief of operations, and the chief of sales. Like to wear all of those hats at once is very difficult. It's manageable at the 0 to 1. But I would say as soon as you start to get some cash flow, you need to start reinvesting back into the business. First hire that's critical is a VA, virtual assistant. I would get someone in that can buy back your time, customer emails, outbound on DM, like small little tasks that do add up in your day. And something that I've started doing, which I did really early on, which I think every entrepreneur should do. In a week, if you're looking around and going like, I just don't have enough time in the day, which is a common phrase for any entrepreneurs, write down. Today, like put the hours against what you do tasks for. Ideally, you block it before and you stick to that. But if you don't stick to it, it's fine. But literally say like marketing - content creation, 2 hours today, sales DMs, 1 hour today. And you'll start to see very visibly over an entire week where your time is going. And then I would look at your lowest leverage tasks that you know you can outsource with a VA. And I would get a VA on those as soon as possible. Next one is sales. Because sales is the least leveraged position in a business, right? I know no matter what, for my salespeople, every $10 they bring in, it costs me $1. I'm going to take that every single time, right? And they're also going to be highly proficient at sales and normally better than me at sales. So it's far better that you outsource sales as the first line. Then I think fulfillment honestly goes next. The last thing and the hardest thing to outsource as a creative and as an influencer-led brand and brand owner, business owner, is marketing. Because ultimately you are the brand. It's your personal brand. And you only know yourself as good as that. So I think it's the last thing that goes. So yeah, in terms of traits, the 0 to 1, grit, willing to fail, and just massive outbound attention to like how many things can I try and test and learn from. And I would just focus purely on cash flow. And I would probably just chase cash to begin with. Like collecting as much cash as possible so you can reinvest and hire those people. And then once you look up, it's about how do you put yourself in a really leveraged position where you can outsource as much of the business as possible and go back to what you started with, which is creating content. It's this funny like loop where it's like you almost need to create content to then build the audience. Then you need to spread your time across everything that audience gives you, which is the ability of lead flow. So you now need to turn those leads into clients. Then you need to fulfill the clients. You need to collect cash. Once you have cash, you reinvest back in the business so that you can eventually get back to doing what you started, which is creating content. If we could free up all of our time just to create content, we'd be in a way better position in the business.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's what I've learned.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that comes back to highest leverage task throughout the whole day, still is creating content. Yet Ned and I leave it to the end of the day.
Yeah, it's
The highest leverage task. We've just got to remember that. Every door we've walked through is because of creating content. The thing we should do in the morning at the very start, we should spend probably 2 to 3 hours creating content. That is just the reality of it. Everything else comes second.
It is ironic that the marketing created the business that then we now spend so much time in, where we forget about the marketing that built it.
Yeah.
And it's, we find ourselves in that trap every single day, and we do have to be better at it. Because we spend so much time on the product and the sales side.
And that's the only side that you guys can't do, like the marketing yourself. You can't outsource that, like to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, at least I've never.
Like you got to show up on camera.
Well, yeah, of course. But even like for me, I haven't given away my editing process yet because it never comes back in the way that I want, in the same style, the same vision. And at some point I'd love to give that out. But again, it's like the front facing door to my brand. And I'm going to want it done in the way that I want it done. And I haven't found an outsourced solution for that yet.
That's why we created Roll, to give you more time. But also, I do think it's one of those things, if you're highly proficient at a skill, like if you had started in sales, I think you'd have the same frame of mind of like, I can't let anyone else close to me. They just don't do it the same way. Like it's the same mindset. It is. It's just that you haven't done the sales to the same extent. It's the same level of, like Adam was the same way with the back end, our GHL system, right? It took him so long to let someone else do it because he does it in such a particular way. And he knows the way that he does it is really good and he doesn't want to outsource it. I agree there is a level of like editing, but it's also, I don't think you've put the same amount of time and effort into up training, like skilling. I don't think you put the same amount of time and effort into training someone. And neither have I, right?
I would agree with that. It would, if I trained someone, yes, I could do it. I haven't put the amount of time and effort, but I do still think there is that, like, when you get to sales, it's a lot of techniques, it's a lot of frameworks, it's a lot of, I guess, a lot of people operate under the same sort of framework when it comes to sales techniques. With content, I would say there is a 90%, but then there's that 10% edge of just like having the creative vision. And that's sometimes difficult to teach. It's like, I know my camera roll better than anybody. I could give you my clips, just like you could give me yours. We're not going to create the content in the way that we both want because it's slightly different, where it's just so particular to our shots.
I agree, but that's also basically saying that there's no one who's got better creative direction than you in the world.
I would say no one knows me better than I know me.
Correct, but I think there's people that could create better versions of you to go out online that would position you better.
That's fair. I would agree with that.
And I'd say the problem is, like, we often pay pennies in marketing. As like a philosophy, it seems like if I said, hey, I've got this like amazing creative director, used to create X person's brand, worked on like some of the biggest people, but it's going to cost you $10,000 a month or whatever it is, that price. It's like, it's probably a super high leverage move to invest in that. But you'd also have to work over time. So it's like I've learned working with Pavan is like, you can't just bring in a creative director and expect them to understand your brand straight away. And that's the same with sales in a way. Like, they're not going to understand the offer straight away. It is an investment that over time, there's going to be an overlap of when you're doing more teaching and it's probably double the amount of work because you're still checking all of the results and still creating a lot of the content and teaching them. But eventually the pendulum swings.
It definitely is a time piece, is spending enough time, because I've worked with editors and it's the same sort of feeling of the first edit, second edit, third edit, even 10th edit. It's usually not coming back the same, but the more time you spend with them, and it is that time investment of, I'm going to stick with you, like at least for some level of long term, that plays out. And same with the creative director. It's like, even when I first jumped in, I had to learn so much about your business, learn about how you think. And I think over time now, I'm starting to, understand you a lot more. And I think as we keep connecting, as we keep talking, the flow of creativity and direction is getting a lot closer. But I think it is definitely a time piece. And yeah, I think everyone needs that time investment.
What is What's one thing you wish you knew before you started creating content?
I came from a different place. For me, I was creating content in terms of photography, videography for like, events, businesses, like all these different areas. So like when I created content for my personal brand, in terms of like the actual content creation, that was like the easy part. I was like, cool, I know how to turn on camera, I know how to make things look good. I know how to like show up, create a brand, like visual. It was more the entrepreneurship side that I was like dealing with. But in terms of the content side, I think there is a lot of upskilling that I did previously that I didn't even think about, that now I look at when people are trying to create content, whether it's, just understanding basic lighting of like, is the light facing you when you're trying to film versus like the back? I think those levels, is so important. And I feel like I learned that very quickly because I wasn't thinking about creating for my own brand yet. It was just like, I was creating for everyone else's brand. But I would say it's hard. I would say that is something I would get people to think about, is just learn the basics of creating, like, cameras, angles, lighting to some level. But I think the rest is entrepreneurship.
I don't think there's anything I wish I would have known before, but something I've definitely noted is once you start, you can't stop. And I mean that from the perspective of like, once you're on the content train, if you want it to consistently compound, you need to continue, and you need to continue and show up every single day. I think it's super simple, but it's not easy. And I think if I look back to when my account was growing the most, I was still getting so much energy from the content because I cared about the algorithm and I was getting the endorphins and all that. And I was creating 2 pieces of content every single day. And it was like clockwork, and I was just grinding it out. And it was like, I enjoyed it. Whereas I think over time, as I've detached myself from the algorithm and sort of just been like, just focus on the input, don't care about the output, there's less joy that's built from it. And now like content's just this always on, like, oh, I've got to create another piece of content. So it is tiring and it is exhausting creating content every single day, because you're both the actor and director of your own film and you're on set every single day. I don't wish that I knew that when I started, because that prevented me from starting. But I think when I first started, part of what I enjoyed was the creative outlet. I think creative outlet has an upper limit of when you create every day, it's hard to be creative every single time. I think I wish I would have known going in. Yeah, I don't think I wish I would have known this, but just going in for anyone, it's like once you start, you're on that train. So pick something that's super sustainable for you. That's probably what I wish I would have known. Pick something that's very sustainable for you, because otherwise you become known for something that's unsustainable. And if it's unsustainable, you're not going to be able to keep doing it. And then to try and keep up, you may do it, but you'll burn out. So I think content sustainability is really important. I think something I'm learning right now is that you're also not confined to just one format. We've all seen a rise of verbal communication on the platform, and you can pivot and change, and your brand doesn't have to stay the same the whole time. I think that's really important to remember.
I would say even on top of that, 100% content sustainability with a format, but also like even the topics. I feel like so many people limit themselves on, I shouldn't talk about all these other areas of my life or other interesting things that you've done or experienced. But I think being able to understand yourself and know the topic that you want to speak long-term as well, I think that is something I would think about. Because otherwise everyone's like, maybe I should be a fitness coach, or maybe I should do this because I've kind of done it for a little bit. But it's like, what do you actually want to create and speak on and bring out into the world? I would say that's like another thing on top of the content format, is what topics do you want to speak on long-term?
Yeah, I think one of the most beautiful things about content is, Alfie talks about it a lot, is you just get paid for who you are, right? Like, it's free to post. Anybody can pick up a camera and click post, and you can express yourself in a way that nobody else can control. Obviously, if you're staying in the boundaries of the platform rules. That's something for me, like in my past life, working corporate America, sitting in a box, like playing by the rules of society. I always felt like I was just confined to just playing the rules and being someone I wasn't. You don't play by that anymore the second you start posting content. And it's a really nice, like, liberating feeling of taking the shackles off, just being who you are, being authentic, and putting stuff out there in the world for people to respond to. And you'll start to, I think, quickly realize that it's not as scary as we all once thought once you start to post content. And I think that fear holds you back in a lot of different areas of life. And I think actually when you put yourself on the platform, it just unlocks a lot. Where, like, I don't care what people think of me, or really, like, there's just so much that I don't care about purely because I've already put myself out there in the most vulnerable way possible. I think for a lot of people that could be a really positive add to your life in other areas.
I'd encourage everyone who's scared of starting because they're worried about judgment, write down on a piece of paper who you're scared of judging you. And you'll see that it's a very tight-knit group of people. And write them by name, because it will be probably 5 or 6 people, if not less, that you're surrounded with on a day-to-day basis. And I think I realized very early on when I started posting, the people that messaged me and supported me and commented were just complete strangers. Like people on the other side of the world saying like, oh, inspired by this. This is awesome. And that positive reinforcement by people on the other side of the world was just a really interesting contrast behind the people that probably stopped me being on the platform, unbeknown to them, because they actually really don't care that much. But unbeknown to them, they were the people that I was most worried about seeing it and judging it. I think for a lot of us, I remember even thinking before I started, looking at other people that were on social media and going like, I bet, yeah, I wish I started like them. Like they clearly don't have a group of people around them. It'd actually be easier if you were just a no one and no one knew about you and then you just rise to stardom. But ultimately, you're so like locked up and scared about probably 5 or 6 people that are around you. And I think if you put their name on a piece of paper and just really look at it, and even to the nth degree, go and talk to those people and be like, hey, if I started social media, what would you think? And get their feedback. And quite frankly, if they're negative about it, they're not your friend.
Yeah. I mean, most people who you think are your friends, you're not your friends. I
mean, that's a dark view on the
world. It might feel a little bit dark, but I feel like the people that, again, you get support from when it comes to posting content are usually not your immediate circle. It's usually people who sit outside that. And again, I think like if I see a friend's piece of content on my page, I'm double tapping it before I even see the piece of content, right? It's just immediate support. I'm not so sure everyone feels the same with the friend group when they're just starting out. I think it takes almost a certain threshold where they're like, oh yeah, I support you now. You're doing great. But at the beginning, it's a little bit like, let's remove ourselves from that person, a little bit cringy.
Yeah, that's fair. Or you get the opposite effect of when it's really successful, they want to remove themselves because you remind them of them when they didn't start.
That's true. I would agree with that.
But I think, I don't know, the role of a friend, like everyone's figuring themselves out. I don't think you can hold people too accountable for not supporting you early on or not supporting this. Like, I think you just got to remove it and be like, externally, I don't need that validation, whether I'm going to do it, whether you support or not. I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think everything is just a reflection of self. Like if people aren't supporting in that area, it's just because they don't see themselves doing social media or like, you know, being out in the world like that. But the interesting question that I could even ask you is, do you support them in endeavors that you don't care about? Because that's probably where they're like looking for like support. And I think that's the interesting thing is like they might have bought a house or something like that was like super amazing for them, but like you don't message them and be like, hey, congrats, like that was amazing that you bought the house. And I think that's the part that everyone's always thinking about for themselves is if I post it out and I'm being vulnerable here, I would want support. But the other areas for the friendship, like what you said, they're just going through different things, thinking about different areas of their life. I feel like we probably don't support them. And this is for me too. We don't support them in areas that are important to them because I just don't think it's important. I look at it and I'm like, no, it's like, I don't really care about it. I don't think you should even be doing it.
It's such a good perspective. Like we always give presents that we want the most. And I think that particularly if I take the house example, but I'll give it, if they got a promotion in the job, let's say they just got director of their job. I don't think you'd be giving them kudos on LinkedIn because we're just so removed from that world, right? And we'd be like, oh, that's like putting on the jail, getting in jail essentially.
We literally look at it the same.
Whereas I'm like very good. If anyone's entrepreneurial in my friendship group, I'm the first to support them, tell them how I can invest, tell them how I can help them. Like I love that stuff. Whereas, yeah, if someone tells me they get like a promotion or they've got a girlfriend, like it's just less of a priority.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm supportive of everyone's endeavors, whatever they're like, whether I communicate that or not is different, right? Just because I wouldn't say I'm the best communicator when it comes to like vocalizing my emotions. But if someone was to ask me, yeah, 100%, I'm supportive. Or if I see it in an environment that I can respond to, like Instagram, I'm going to support it. I am a big believer of like, if you go out and do something and you're passionate about it, like who am I to say do that or don't do it? Like I'm very supportive. And that's why I love to see, again, like you could have 5 followers. If I see someone putting themselves on the platform and having a crack at it, I love it.
But that's because you put yourself out there and have a crack at it. The points being, if you saw someone get married,
yeah,
would you be like, I'm over the moon for you guys. This is awesome. Like, comment.
No, because I wouldn't say I'm over the moon for like it doesn't matter. Like, I'm happy for that person, like regardless of what it is that they're doing, whether they bought a house, or they're getting married, or they got promoted at work. Like, if they were to ask me, or if I was able to express myself in a way that shows that support, I'm going to do it. If that's just a double tap on a post.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think that's why everything's a reflection of yourself. It's like how you view the world is how you project back out, which I think is where, because I can sense it in myself. If someone is staying the path, doing a job, like, I don't care. Like, maybe it sounds bad, but I don't really, go the extra effort and like, congrats on this, or like, that's amazing. I like literally just like tune out because it's not important to me. But if it's someone doing the extra effort, like being ambitious, trying for something amazing, it's because that's the reflection in myself. I know that that's important to me. I'm going to give so much attention to that. I'm going to like boost them up, give a message, do whatever I can, because I know that I wish that happened for me too. And I think that's how everyone communicates. But that's at least how I connect with friends. And I think you touch on that a lot, which is, I think a message not heard as much is everyone is doing their own thing and supporting in their own way. But you just got to realize, every friendship, every person is on their own path. And I think that is like so important to me, because the person that's doing something completely separate to me, I'll be honest, I don't really support them because they're like on a different path. But I wouldn't expect that support coming back my way, especially if I know that they don't even find what I'm doing important. Well, with all of that being said, I think one thing that we all can agree on is getting paid for who you are, at least for the way I view it, is what success is. I don't know if you guys would agree, but I think that is really where we end up in, is if you can get paid for who you are, that is success. And whether you do it through influencing, whether you do it through building your own business, I think getting paid for who you are is everyone's really deep down ultimate dream.
Get paid for who you are, support your mates.
Yeah. I don't think there's a better feeling than waking up and doing what you actually enjoy. There's just not a better feeling, because again, like when the head hits the pillow at the end of the night, like, you actually did something that day that you enjoyed. And for a lot of people, that's not the case. But I think for anybody that stepped outside that world and they started to build something that they actually enjoy, I think the level of fulfillment you have is much, much greater.
Take more risks. You have literally one life. There's no other life.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and comment down below what your version of success looks like.